The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Suckling on the teat of tech.
With Paul Brislen.
Yes, let's talk high tech with the man who knows a little bit about technology. Well, quite a lot actually, really, in my view. It's Paul Brislen.
That's all very good. Yes, no, I can spell technology. That's about my lot.
You've got a long checkered history in technology.
Checkered is the word for it, yes. Indeed. Technology has a long history with me.
Yes, and of course a strong background in journalism and technology as well.
Which is always very important.
Well, it is, and that's where our first story intersects. This stoush that's happened between technology blog Gizmodo and Apple.
It makes me very angry. Very, very angry.
What happened?
Long story short, an Apple employee left the prototype for the new iPhone, apparently, in a bar at his birthday party. It was picked up by somebody who realized what it was and potentially sold it to a friend who may have sold it to Gizmodo, a website that posts a bounty for such things. You know, bring us your high-tech gadgets ahead of schedule. We'll do an exclusive and we'll pay you $5,000 for it.
Right.
So that's what they did. They exposed all the secrets to the world, and you would think that would be the end of it. But Apple is very much about controlling all aspects of life. So they said they apparently, and this is all sort of coming out even as we speak, they apparently have gone to a friendly law enforcement agency nearby that just happens to be sponsored and supported by Apple and Apple products, and said, "Oi, can you go and retrieve the information and find out from Gizmodo just who this guy was who stole the phone?" And the police said, "Well, actually, you know, we can't legally do much because Gizmodo is a journalism site. They're covered by what they're called the SHIELD laws. Yep. They don't have to give up their sources." And they said, yes, but if you go and legally search their place and take their hard drives and whatnot, by the time all of that's sorted, we'll know who the thief is. So that's what they did.
Right.
To my horror, they have gone along and breached what I consider to be pretty much impervious SHIELD laws, which say if somebody tells you something as a journalist, you cannot be made to reveal your sources in court or any other way. And in the US, this is a really big deal. But Apple has forced their hand and done just that. They raided Gizmodo's editor's home, took his hard drive.
The editor or the blogger?
The editor, I think, of the site. It's a bit hazy at this stage. They seem to have gone into a couple of different places. But either way, I mean, they're protected by the SHIELD laws.
Okay,
they are journalists. This sort of thing should not be happening.
Well, okay, so there's two things going on here. There's this heavy-handed police business, and there's the whole Apple marketing spin on things. You know, they create this hype through being so secretive. But then there is also the legality of paying for a stolen iPhone, because that iPhone, at the end of the day, it was left in a bar, and then it was held to ransom, and it was stolen.
Well, no, it wasn't stolen. It was found. Stolen is when you go and then take it off someone. You know, stolen is where, found is where you pick it up in the bar and go, holy cow, I've got an iPhone prototype. I will publish it on a blog and tell everybody all about it.
But then sell it for $5,000?
Sure.
It wasn't the blogger that found the phone.
No, it was somebody else.
Yeah,
somebody else
who sold it. They sold it to Gizmodo.
I don't have a problem with that because as a journalist, you have sources from all over the place. And if somebody wants to, if you post, you get this all the time with checkbook journalism from the US, from the UK with the tabloids, they will pay for stories. And it's a dubious part of the business, but it is a legitimate part of the business. There's
a blog post from technology entrepreneur Jason Calacanis on this very issue. And he pulls up the example, well, what if you were walking along the road and then you saw this brand new Mercedes-Benz sitting on the side of the road and, oh, look, the keys are in there. And you drove off and then you on-sold that for $600,000 to a news organisation so they could pick it apart, or you on-sold it to a competitor so that they could pick it apart. If it was
a competitor just to pick it apart, that would be industrial espionage and would be a problem. If it's a prototype and you're selling it to a newspaper to write the stories, I honestly don't have a problem with that.
But surely this is the lowest form of checkbook journalism.
It is, but it's still a form of journalism, and it
doesn't make it right though.
No, I think it does. I think the need to know, what makes it wrong in this situation is not that the prototype was paid for. If you're giving it away for free, I mean, I don't think that makes it any better or any worse. But that Apple has turned around and managed to convince the authorities to raid this man's home and take the information from his computer.
Is equally
which to me
very,
is
very heavy-handed and dodgy.
You want journalists to be able to do their job, to expose secrets, whether they're secrets that a company wants to hide or whether it's the secrets that a government wants to hide. You want these kinds of things out in the sunlight where everybody can have a look at them. Now, in this case, I mean, it's a prototype for a phone, so really, at the end of the day, it's not world peace, is it?
No, it's not. I mean,
strictly speaking,
yeah.
It's a bit childish.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to start down that track of...
What happened to the idea of finding a phone and handing it into the barman?
Well, and I think from what I've read anyway, that's what this guy was going to do until he figured out that it was an iPhone.
And then you could make money out of it.
4.0. Well, yes. I mean, that's very American, isn't it? If it was me, I'd have just taken the pictures myself and stuck it on my blog and sent Gizmodo the link. But, I'm no entrepreneur, clearly. And, hey, if you're going to give your iPhones to, your prototypes to 28-year-old engineers for their birthday to go to a bar and, odd things are going to happen to them. Yeah. Have a look at Dilbert. The guy who writes Dilbert has a blog, and in the blog this week he's put in 2 cartoons that are all about this. Basically, all he does is take exactly what happened and put Wally in it, and it's insanely funny.
All right, well worth taking a look at. Staying with mobile phones, Paul, there's news that HP have bought Palm.
They have, and nobody really knows why. Palm were for many years the single biggest maker of these kinds of things. Before they were smartphones, they were, of course, Palm Pilots. And Palm led the fray. Microsoft tried to get into the market and faffed about with a product that they appallingly named Windows CE, which was shortened to Wince. And Palm, I remember going to a press conference many years ago. Palm was scoffing at Microsoft's attempts. This is Wince 3.0, which came out and couldn't do anything. And they were so sure of themselves that they ignored everything that was going on in the market, and Microsoft ate their lunch. And then they spent several years navel-gazing. They sold themselves to a company called 3Com. They split themselves into 2 different divisions and sold off the software part. They stopped using the software part in the hardware division. Oh, it was just a nightmare. And with all the dithering and all the faffing about, they've lost market share, and now nobody buys Palm products anywhere anymore, ever.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Hewlett-Packard has paid $1.2 billion and bought them. I hope they can turn things around, but I fear that boat has long since sailed, and that these days even Microsoft is looking around wondering what's happened to the smartphone device market, because of course it's no longer Microsoft versus RIM with its BlackBerry products. It's Google versus Apple.
It is.
And if you're so far behind that you were the guy that came before the guy that came before the current reign, you're probably too far behind the ball to get anything going.
Yeah.
So there's poor old Palm. It was gorgeous in its day, and the Palm 5, I stopped a press conference cold by pulling out a Palm 5 and starting to take notes on it once upon a time, back in the day. And the speaker on the stage, one Ralph Braham, said, "Son, what's that you've got there?" And he stopped the presentation about some Toshiba laptop and came on down to have a look at the Palm 5. It was that far ahead of its time. It was gorgeous. It was the iPad of its day, the iPhone of its day.
A very long time ago. Hey, Paul, just before we go very quickly, an update on the 1 laptop per child scheme.
Yes, 1 laptop per child is this idea that you can build a laptop for $100 and sell it in Africa and other third world countries. It is going gangbusters. So the new version of the 1 laptop per child is starting to roll out, and there's a good story I think you've got the link for on BBC all about the history of 1 laptop per child program and what we can do to help. And I think they're fantastic devices. They are gorgeous to look at, even as a first world user. And I think it's great that they're getting out there to places like East India and East Africa, where education is often considered fairly low down on the food chain.
Exactly. And
you can spend your money on.
There's a great website. It's just simply titled laptop.org, where you can go and find out a whole lot more about that as well.
Gorgeous piece of kit.
Paul Brislen, thanks so much.
Anytime.
Check him out on Twitter as well. You can debate the merits of checkbook journalism with Paul on Twitter, twitter.com/Paul Brislen. I got a track now from